Welcome back to Introduction to Mixing, a free class for composers and producers who want to mix their own music. Today, we will be learning step number 4 of our simple mixing workflow, and that is how to apply reverb across your mix. Using reverb is all about recreating the behavior of your sound in a physical space. Many sound libraries and samples are recorded wet, meaning that they are recorded in a space like a hall or a room with lots of natural reverb. Other libraries are recorded dry, meaning that they are recorded in a space like a studio, which has very little to no natural reverb. Now, regardless of which types of libraries you work with, the specific room an instrument is recorded in will always have an impact on its sound. And the whole point of applying reverb to your mix is to try and smooth out the differences between those different recordings and make it sound like they were all recorded in the same space together. So to use reverb to create a physical space for your sound, you first need to understand how exactly sound behaves in a room and what kind of impact that's going to create. So, imagine you're in a concert hall, listening to your local orchestra or concert band performing some music. The sound they produce is going to travel from their instruments to your ears, but not all at once. They're going to come in about 3 different waves. The first wave of sound to hit your ears will be something we're going to call direct sound. These are the sound waves that travel directly to your ears without bouncing off any surfaces. This is the purest, least altered form of sound that's going to reach you. Shortly after the direct sound reaches your ears, though, the next wave of sounds is going to follow. These are called the early reflections, and they are sound waves that bounce off a surface or two before finding their way to your ears. Finally, after the early reflections reach you, the very last straggling sound waves to reach your ears are going to find their way home. These sound waves are called the tail of your sound. These are the sounds that have bounced all over the place. They've hit walls, furniture, people, even multiple sound waves, multiple times, until they no longer resemble the original source, and instead they're going to sound as more like a simple and subtle wash of sound. These last 2 waves of sound, the early reflections and the tail, combine to create what we know as reverb. The whole point of using reverb in a mix is to control and manipulate each of these 3 waves of sound. And in this video, we are going to learn about the most common parameters that you can find in almost every reverb plugin and how they can be used to manipulate the type of room you're creating for your mix. Then we're going to learn a simple approach for applying all of that information to help clean up your sound. Now, as a reminder, when you are creating your own reverb settings, you are just essentially trying to make it sound like all of your instruments were recorded in the same room. Now, in order to create that room, you need to consider a few different things. How far away is your audience sitting from the source of the sound? How big is the room? And what kind of furniture do you have in the room? First up, we need to decide how far away your audience is sitting from the source of your sound. The strongest tool we have for manipulating this is something called reverb mix. The reverb mix refers to a kind of ratio. Of all the different sound waves reaching your ears, what percentage of them are direct sound versus reverb? If you think about it, the further away you sit from the source of your sound, the more likely it's going to be that more and more of the sound waves are going to bounce off at least something before they reach your ears. So, in other words, the further away you sit, the more reverb you're going to hear. And in a plugin, the higher the percentage of your sound is reverb, the further away your sound will appear to be. For example, this is what my trumpet patch sounds like with 0 reverb applied. Now let's try about like 25%. And notice how it already feels like it's farther away. Let's try even more. All right, one more. Cool, right? Now we're going to learn more about picking the right mix percentage for your music in a moment. But first, let's talk about the other controls. Another tool for manipulating the distance between your audience and your performers is something called pre-delay. Another tool for manipulating the distance between your audience and your performers is something called pre-delay. Pre-delay is how much time it takes for the first early reflections to reach your ears after the source sound already has. This parameter will also have a subtle impact on the size of your room. After all, the larger the room is, the farther the early reflections will need to travel in order to bounce off all the different surfaces and then reach your ear. Sound travels relatively slowly, only about 1 foot or 30.48 centimeters per millisecond. That means for every extra foot that the sound needs to travel, there will be another millisecond added to the pre-delay. And this should be reflected in your settings. Now, again, this is a subtle effect. So as a general rule, anywhere from 10 to 20 milliseconds worth of pre-delay will work well for most orchestral music. Now, our third tool, reverb tail or decay time, is a much stronger tool for controlling how large of a room you're imitating. Decay time determines how long your tail sound waves will remain audible before they've died off from bouncing off too many surfaces. The longer your decay time, the larger the room you've created, which makes sense. If it's a bigger room, the sound waves have further to travel, so it's going to take longer for them to bounce off enough surfaces to eventually die out than it would take in a much smaller room where they can bounce off a bunch of surfaces really quickly. So in a very large space, like a cathedral, the sound waves have very far to travel, so it's going to take longer for them to bounce off enough surfaces to die out, which is why you have very long tails like this. In a room, however, it can be significantly shorter. Because the walls and furniture are much closer, there's a lot less distance the sound waves have to travel, and so they bounce off surfaces much more rapidly, and they die out much more quickly. Generally speaking, a decay time between 1.5 seconds to 3 seconds long is relatively realistic for most concert halls. But finally, our fourth and final tool that we'll be tackling is called reverb color, or sometimes the high cut. Color refers to the personality of the reverb itself. If we're thinking about how this applies to creating a digital room, the color basically determines what type of furniture and surfaces you have. Is it a room filled with soft, squishy carpet and padded chairs, or is it a wooden hall with lots of hard surfaces? Rooms with lots of soft surfaces, like carpeting, curtains, etc., are going to absorb much more high frequencies from your sound than rooms with lots of hard surfaces, like marble, stone, and wood. This has an impact on how subtle versus obvious your reverb will sound. A room with lots of soft surfaces will have a warm and subtle reverb because the early reflections and the tail will get absorbed by the room much more quickly. For example, the color and high cut of most reverb is controlled with a low pass filter. So if I lower that filter, it's going to remove more and more frequencies from the reverb, and this results in a much more subtle sound. If I raise this up so that the filter is not removing nearly as many frequencies, our reverb becomes much more obvious, much more in your face. You are welcome to try experimenting with different settings. But typically, if you are trying to create a realistic concert hall type setting, having your high frequencies roll off anywhere between 3 and 4 kilohertz tends to work really, really well. Now, all this information is important to know, but that doesn't mean that you have to reinvent the wheel every single time you're trying to apply reverb to your mixes. In fact, you are more than welcome to use any number of simple presets. This helps keep things simple, streamlined, and easy to replicate, and it's what we're going to be doing here. You are going to want at least one hall and then one room. And our process for applying these is going to be very simple. First things first, we need to make sure that each of our instruments have similar colors. And the easiest way to do this is to apply the same reverb settings to each of our buses, which we set up in step 1 of our mixing process. We're going to go to Inserts, and we're going to add a reverb. I like using Valhalla Room. Ideally, at this step, you want to just pick a small room, something like Studio Alpha. You can play around, find the ones that you like the most. The only thing we're really looking for is to make sure that we have a very short decay, somewhere between 300 to 700 milliseconds long. So I'm actually going to lower this down a little bit to 500 milliseconds. We don't need a super long tail at this step. Basically, at this stage, all we're doing is making sure we're coloring the early reflections of all our tracks so they're set up in the same room. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to take the mix and set it to 0. I'm going to find one of my instruments, let's say flute. I take this just because it's got this little short passage here. And I'm going to listen to this piece, this little moment, looped. As I listen, I'm going to slowly raise the mix percentage on my reverb until I can just barely notice the impact that it's having. This will usually be somewhere around 20%, but trust your ears. If you're struggling to hear the difference, you can always toggle the bypass button, which allows you to turn your reverb on or off so you can hear before and on. Again, you're not looking for anything super strong, but the moment you notice that little impact, you're good. As a tip, if you are really struggling to hear that impact, you can always just crank up the tail. Crank up the tail, that's a bit exaggeration. I'd say about like 3 seconds. Start all the way back down and do the same thing. Listen to the part, slowly raise it, and then when you're done, then bring your tail back down to that about 500 millisecond marker. Find a good spot, bring it back down to about 0.5 seconds, and we're good. Once you have a good setting, make sure it is applied to each of your other buses. If you really want to be dialed in, you can go through and make small adjustments to each one until you get the exact sound you're looking for. But for now, applying the very simple, subtle effects to each bus equally should be more than enough. With this taken care of, it's time for step 2. You see, usually, as you are mixing, you are going to end up working with a combination of both dry and wet libraries or recordings. Some instruments will already have a super long tail, while others will have virtually none. It is your responsibility as the mixing artist to try and equal them out. One of the simplest ways to do this is to create a reverb bus. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to form a new track. I'm going to hit Effects Track. I'm going to find my effect. I want Valhalla Room. I'm going to add track, and boom. I now have a dedicated bus just for reverb. This time, I am going to find a hall reverb. Something, I like the large hall setting here. We're going to set the mix to 100%, but we're going to set our high cut all the way up just so it's turned off. Remember, the high cut is usually a low pass filter. So if the cutoff frequency is super high, it means it's letting all the frequencies underneath it pass through. We already have the color from our insert reverb, so we don't need to worry about this too much. Unless, of course, you want to and you want to go the extra step, go ahead and experiment, trust your ears. But right now we're focusing on just simple workflows. With the mix set to 100%, the final step is to figure out how long my tail should be. And this is probably the trickiest step. You see, the whole point of setting up this particular reverb bus is to help even out the tails between your wet samples and your dry samples. So if you have a library with lots of natural reverb, something like Albion 1 or Metropolis Arc, and you're mixing in libraries with very little to no reverb, something like Studio Professional Strings by Spitfire, you want to use this plugin to help add a tail to your dry libraries that matches the tail of your wet libraries. Now, unfortunately, the only way to do this is trial and error. So what you would do is go to your mix console. You would find an example of your dry libraries, like Violin 1. You would go to the sends, and you would send your library to the new reverb. You would then use 2 MIDI tracks. You would take your wet library, play a note, count to yourself how long was that. 1, 2, 3. So basically play a note, take your finger off the keyboard, and then count how long it takes for the sound to die out. And you would compare that to your wet library, something like Albion 1. You'd go, I'm going to lift my finger off. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I see this little light die out. Go right here. I would go to my Valhalla room. I would say, all right, let's try a 3-second decay. I'd change that. But you would experiment around until you found a way to make your tails sound roughly the same length. Again, it's time consuming. It sucks. But this is how you make wet libraries mix with dry libraries. And the cool thing is once you get more and more familiar with your libraries, it becomes easier and easier because you start to understand how long and how much reverb you need to apply. This is one of those things where you only need to do it once or twice before you get the hang of it, and it starts to become much easier. Fortunately for us, I am using the same library series. I did not mix libraries here, so my job is much easier. I can just pick a tail length that I like. In this case, I think I'll air a bit on the side of a shorter tail, about 1.5 seconds long, and I will just apply this to each of my tracks. We can do this on a track-by-track basis, or you can do it using the buses. I generally recommend using tracks, but it's up to you. Regardless of what strategy you do, tracks versus buses, you go one at a time. You go to your send effects. You will send your signal to your reverb. We will set it to 0, and we will once again slowly start increasing this send until we can just barely hear the impact of the reverb. Once you can just barely hear it, you're probably good. You can then repeat this process for the rest of your tracks, skipping any naturally wet libraries that don't need additional reverb, until everything sounds as neat and uniform as possible. After a little bit of effort, we're done with our reverb. As usual, the more time you spend on this, the more attention you can give to detail, but even just a little bit of effort will have a big impact. Let's give it a listen. And with that, we have reached the end of another video. In the next lesson, we will discuss the next step in mixing, which is EQ. But until then, I'd like to thank my generous patrons, channel members, and donors who make videos like this one possible. I appreciate each of you more than you realize. So until next time, keep studying, keep working hard, and keep writing new music. I will see you in the next video.